It's Joshua that you're very familiar with. Joshua chapter 24, verse 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. What a great statement that was. Joshua was the leader and the priest of his family. And he said, I'll tell you, you can serve who you want to. And with every choice, there's a consequence. Every choice is a consequence for a choice. His choice was, I'm going to serve the Lord. His consequence was heaven. If you serve the devil, your consequence is hell. It's all a choice. Just simply all it is. We're here tonight because we made choices to be here, because we wanted to be here. We want to be here. And so my story is this, simply. I don't know exactly, as I said, I'm going to condense it about as quick as I can. And put the other picture on there, Mark. And I got three pictures, four, 1, 2, 3, 4, probably about 4. And my story is this, simply this. I don't know exactly how, I probably was 14, maybe 15 years old when I got saved. My maturity was far beyond a normal 15-year-old boy, because I was playing baseball with men. And the reason was my dad was an iron worker, and there wasn't much work going on in Tennessee in the 50s. And my dad built big buildings. I don't know, he's a layout man in somewhere. I don't know what layout means, but he helped build the Kingston Steam Plant. He worked there for several years. Then he worked I've lived in Baltimore, Maryland. I've lived in Cleveland, Ohio, and I've lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, because Dad would have to go up north to work back in those days. And yet the maturity factor on me was that Dad moved us back to Tennessee, and I have 3 brothers, and Dad had to go off and work up north for probably 2 or 3 weeks, a month at a time. And I got 3 brothers, and I had to take care. I become more of a father figure to my 3 brothers and responsible for my 3 brothers, because that brother next to me got more fights and got me. I had to take up for him, and then me and him would fight like cats and dogs. But I remember those days. But anyway, so my maturity was, I was well beyond 15 years old. I'd run around with men. I couldn't even drive a car, and they'd come and get me and take me to a place I ought not to be. And so I was really on the wrong road. And when I went off through elementary school with no genius, but I always did my work, passed every grade. But when I got in high school, I got with the wrong crowd of boys. I laid out in them woods every high school morning. I stayed in the classroom. I just wouldn't go to school, and then we'd take off and go to the pool rooms. And so that kind of lifestyle was what I was living. And so, boy, I didn't know exactly where I was going to end up at, but I do know one thing. I remember this one thing as I was playing baseball. My coach said, there's a gentleman wanting to talk with you about baseball. I said, what does he want to talk to me about? He said, well, I'm going to meet with him, and I'll bring him to you. And we met somewhere. I don't even remember where it was at. And he was a baseball scout for the Detroit Tigers. And he was watching me play ball, I don't know, with the men of Babe Ruth League and Connie Mack League, whatever. I didn't even know anything about it. But I met with him. I didn't even know what he said other than one thing. I remember one thing he said. We believe that you can play Major League Baseball. And I'm only 14 years old, 15. And so he said, I would be 18. I said, no, it's just 15 years old. And so I was to go to Knoxville the next year. Now, 15 years old, boy, that's a pretty good sized fella. And with the Knoxville Smokies, that was the farm club. They were the farm club for the Detroit Tigers. And said, you go over there and you're going to play baseball with them. Well, that scared me to death, I said, I ain't going over there. And I just said, no, I'm going to stay with these Rockford boys. So I just stayed with them, didn't ever go over there. And at 16 years old, I got married. 16 years old. And they said, that'll never last. How many has it been? 61. God rescued me. She probably did, I guess. She probably rescued me because I don't know where I would have been had it not been for that. And I mean, I can't imagine a 16-year-old boy getting married today. I just can't imagine that. But my maturity was far beyond that. And then I went ahead and played baseball till I was 20. But you know what God had for me? He didn't want me to play baseball. You know what he had? The ministry. He called me into the ministry at 20 years old. But then the one thing I look back at that on, the working of grace. Now let me give you this, and I'll close. You know, I could go on and on, but I look back on that. If it hadn't have been for my marriage and with her, I would have ended up maybe in prison. I could have been killed. I could have been in prison. I was on the wrong road, and God saw that. God rescued me, but he sent the Holy Spirit in my heart and opened the eyes of my heart and let me know that I was lost. I was lost. I was going to hell. And I never had thought about that before. I believed in hell, but I never had thought about it until the Holy Spirit began to put light into my soul. And I would get up, I'd go at my cousin's house, get up early in the morning, and then I would go over about 2 o'clock in the morning, get Dad out of bed, pray for me, Dad, I don't know what's wrong with me. And he'd pray with me, and I'd get feeling pretty good. And then next Friday night, I'd go back doing the same things again, going out with my cousins. And it went on for several weeks, but finally, one on Sunday afternoon, my uncle came to me. God gave him a message for me. I'm out in the baseball field playing baseball on Sunday afternoon after church, and about 15 years old. And so he said, come here. Mom called and said, come here. Your uncle wants to see you. And he shared the message with me, David Arwood, and that was my uncle. And I know that he used to be Pat and Eddie's pastor. And so anyway, he shared the gospel with me that Sunday afternoon, and I asked Jesus come into my heart that Sunday afternoon, and he gloriously saved me. I didn't think I'd ever be able to walk down that church aisle. I didn't think I'd ever be able to do that. I was so backward and bashful. When I was dating Barbara, when her daddy would come in, I'd be sitting on the front porch with Barbara and her mother, and her daddy would come in around the front. He'd look and throw up his hand out, go around the back, and I said, I'll see you, Barbara, I'm gone. And he'd say, where did that boy go? I was gone. I just couldn't face him. Now, I got a grandson that's as bashful as I am. This boy, he's petrified. Dylan is petrified of people. He don't know what to say. Oh, I didn't know what to say. I could play baseball. I played basketball in front of people. It didn't bother me, but I couldn't talk and couldn't meet anybody. I preached for years over in Knoxville. One lady, I was over there, you know, and she told the pastor, boy, he could preach a good sermon, didn't read it off. I didn't read nothing off. I couldn't look at you. I couldn't face people with eye contact. And that's how backward and bashful. But the Holy Spirit came into my heart, came into my life, and it has been a wonderful journey. I wouldn't take nothing for it. Saved by grace. God redeemed me. God rescued me, and God restored me. I thank God for that tonight. I want to say unto him, Lord Jesus Christ, I thank you for coming into my heart and saving me and redeeming me. I thank him tonight. What a glorious moment it is. And I'm still growing in that relationship. He's not through with me yet. Yeah, I don't think he ever gets through with you, you know. You can just grow close to God as you want to. If you want to grow closer to God, you can. If you don't, you won't. So it's been a wonderful journey. I might have went 6 minutes, but anyway. Now, who's next? Barbara. Okay, Barbara, come up here. You got to get up here. I'll lower the mic a little. You speak into the mic now. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, my time starts just a little bit before him. I was back about 1955. I began feeling the Lord tugging in my heart, but I kept running. I ran. Well, revival come up in the spring of that year, and I didn't want to go. Well, Mama was the type of person that you went to church. You didn't stay home by yourself. You went to church. And she had enough Cherokee in her, the black straight hair and the dark brown eyes. When she looked at you that certain way, you went to church. It wasn't no staying at home. But anyways, for the first week of that revival, I faked the fact that I had homework. I didn't do homework at school. I waited till I got home. And I put it off as long as I could so I wouldn't have to go to church. So she stayed out with me. She'd say, let's go to church. And I'd say, I got homework. So she did that for a week and did it on Monday night of the second week. But on Tuesday, when I got up to go to school, she said, if you got homework, you either do it at school or you do it as soon as you come home because you're going to church tonight. So I did. But I knew when I went to church that I would have to go to that altar. I couldn't put it off any longer. Well, I did. When I got there and church was over, preacher Ed Blue was preaching the revival. And when it was over, my cousin come back there to me, and that was when they'd come and want you to go to the altar. She come back and she was crying, and she said, Barbara, she said, I feel like you need to go. I said, will you go with me? And I said, no. And she kept standing there crying and begging me to go down front. And this lady was standing in front of me, and I have no idea to this day who that woman was. I reckon she just come for the revival. But she looked around after a little bit, and she said, honey, I don't know you, and I don't know what all the situation is, but said, I believe if I was you, I'd go to that altar. She said, it's dangerous not to with the way it is. Well, that did it. That was what I needed to get me to the altar. I went and I prayed, got right. God saved me. But you've heard of the times of people saying, stand up, testify for the Lord, stand up. And then there'd be one on this side say, pray, stay down. Well, I'm one of them. That's the way it was. And it was tore between the two sides of the people. But anyway, I finally had to get up. I couldn't stay there no longer. And God's brought me a long way. Almost 62 years with him. He brought me through heart surgery, through other sicknesses. Now he's bringing me through cancer. I'll do just as long as he wants me to do it, as long as I'm able. I won't give the devil a chance, even though he tries to put me down. He tries his best. If you die, you're not saved. You know you're not. You're going to hell if you die. But I just turn it over to God. He takes me back to that little spot where at Riverview Church I got saved. I've not always done like I should. I've been contrary to what he wants sometimes. But I do know when my time comes, I will go to heaven. I'm not going to let the devil defeat me. But as long as I can go, as long as I feel like it and I'm able, I'll be at church. And if it's his will, I will be healed. If not, then I'll meet him.
I wish I got a picture of all of them, but I tried to get a picture of everybody. I don't want to put it on the screen. I had a little problem with this one. But don't you all laugh at it now? This is all I got of it. Donnie, come up here. Oh, Lord. That's the only one I could get. I told you, he said, put it on there.
Put it on there, bro. Thanks, bro.
I love you, buddy. Oh, man.
I like your apron.
Well,
I like the shoes.
how you like that, Earl?
Oh,
Settle down, you never know it.
Well, Barb, that was great. Gosh, why didn't you let me go before Barb? That was great. I tell you, I know a lot of you've heard my testimony, and I'm gonna condense it way down. And I guess they do like Academy Awards. If I start going over and Mark plays some music, that means I need to sit down. Or almost didn't make it today, brother.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I could tell one on you.
On me?
On you, yeah, I'll tell it real quick. I was talking to Brother Charles today, and as I started talking to him, I was pulling into a bank, my bank. And a lot of you know how I park. I back into everywhere. So I backed into the thing right there in front of the door. I backed in, and I sat, and I was talking to Brother Charles, and we got talking about the Lord. And I tell you what, it went on longer than I thought. I wasn't paying no attention. I was in the Lord, and I was loving it. When I walked in that bank, those people said, we was this close calling the law. And I said, what? And thankfully, this is the truth, brother. And thankfully, one of the tellers knows me and knows my truck because my back glass of my truck is darkened. And they said, we've never seen anybody back in our front door and sit that long and not get out. We thought there might be something. That's the truth, brother. And but luckily, one of them knowed me and knowed my truck, and they was laughing about it. And I don't know. I thought it was, yeah. I could have called you, been a witness for me, but you know, he said, "Can you tell your testimony real quick?" And I said, "Yeah." And boy, you know what the devil does? The devil just works you over. What are you gonna say? What are you gonna say when you get up there? I mean, what are you gonna say? And I started saying, Lord, what am I gonna say? The devil was working me over on this, and you know what? One of my favorite songs come on the radio. I mean, right as I was praying this, one of my favorite songs from the Inspirations. It says, I have not forgotten. And it's a great song. You can listen to it. It says, you know, it starts out, I have not forgotten what God's only begotten has done for me. Yeah. And I've not forgotten that. And it was a long time ago. And I grew up in Eagleton Village. And we moved from Eagleton Village to May Avenue. So when you'd walk through 3 backyards, you was at May Avenue from where we was at in Eagleton Village. And then we moved from there to Birdwell Lane down in Jackson Hills, or Circle. And if you walked through 2 backyards that way, you was back where we started. So we moved 3 times and never more than a quarter mile from where we started. But I grew up in Eagleton Village, overlooking Jackson Hills and the Eagleton area, and going to the boys club, and I got in a lot of trouble. And as I got older, I learned how to get into more trouble. And by the time I was in high school, I was really getting in a lot of trouble. And, you know, when me and Susan started dating, the teachers would come to her and pull her to the side, because here's a straight A student that's never been in no trouble dating me. And they say, what is wrong with you? Something wrong? Is something wrong at home? She's like, no, why? And they just couldn't get over that she was dating somebody like me. And I even won an award in my senior year for being the meanest boy in class. I've still got it at the house somewhere. I need to bring it in, but they made it politically correct. They put most mischievous, you know. So it made me feel all right and everything. And but I was going to church off and on with Susan when she'd asked me to go, but I was still, you know, nowhere where I needed to be, and I was in a sinful life. And one night I was at a friend's house, and it was storming and everything, and the power, not the power, but the cable went off. And I'm sitting there with my feet propped up on this huge Bible that was on the coffee table. I mean, it was huge, and I had my feet propped up on it. And I said, well, I'll start reading the Bible. I don't know why I thought that or why I done that. I opened that up, and I started reading about what Jesus was talking about, where people's going to go if they die without him. And oh my gosh, I mean, you could have hit me with a brick. I mean, at the time I was doing body work myself on Alcoa Highway, and I tell you what, I said, golly, I said, I don't know what to do. I really don't. I was so scared because I knew without a shadow of a doubt exactly I was going to this place that Jesus was talking about if I died, without a doubt. I mean, nobody had to tell me I was a sinner. Nobody had to tell me the things that I'd done. I knew it. And I said, what am I going to do? And I said, I'll go to church in the morning. Boy, that'll make it better. If I just go to church, this will pass. This will go away. Wrong. Old Carl, Lord gave him a message, and he wound up and delivered that thing and hit me right in the face with it. And I mean, it got worse, real worse. And I know I needed to go, and you couldn't have pried my fingers off them pews for nothing. But then I had to go to work. I was afraid to get on Alcoa Highway. We'd hear wrecks all the time out there while we was working. You could hear them. We got to where we could tell how bad of a wreck it was by how long the screeching of the tires before they hit. I was scared to get on Alcoa Highway. I went the back. You know, you go the back roads to the Alcoa Highway. If you get on enough back roads, you don't even have to get on Alcoa Highway. It takes you a lot longer, but you'll get there. But by Tuesday, I'd had enough. I'm still under conviction, and I want to thank God right now. You know, a lot of people come under conviction for a few hours or a day, and then it leaves them. Well, it didn't leave me. I guess the Lord knows what He was doing, and I called Carl on Tuesday night, in the middle of the night, and I done said to myself, I said, "Boy, if that thing rings twice, I'm gonna hang up." He answered on the first ring. That's the honest truth. He answered on the first ring, and I told him how scared I was, and that I was lost. And he met me right out here in this parking lot on a Tuesday night. And I gave my heart and life to Jesus. I didn't just have him right here. I confessed him with my mouth, but I believed him with my heart. I brought him down, brother. And I tell you what, it's been great ever since. And I want to thank a lot of you because I want to say these two things, and I'll close. There was people here at this church, and some of them still here, and nobody never showed me nothing but love. Even though I wasn't where I should be, I always felt love here, and I want to thank you for that. And I also want to tell you this. If you're praying for somebody to be saved, don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. I don't care what they're into. I don't care what they're doing. Don't never give up. And I tell you what, in 2020, I want to be a better disciple, a better husband, a better father. And I know two things that's going to get me there, and that's more praying and more reading of this right here. I call this my 40% Bible. I got it for 40% off. You see, they messed up somebody's name down here at the bottom, and they couldn't sell it, I guess. So they knocked 40% off of them. They make fun of me a little bit at work. I go to a Bible study on Thursday mornings, and they'll ask me, "You got your 40% Bible with you?" I say, "I sure do." But don't forget, if you're praying for somebody, don't give up. Don't give up on them. Thank you for this time. I hope I didn't go over.
All right, this is the next one. You can figure this out. I had to get him twice, but Susan sent me this one. Okay, Brenda.
Well, I just found this out when I come in the door tonight. So.
Now, I left you a message, didn't I?
Yeah, you left me a message, but for some reason I didn't check my messages. So anyway, I don't never want to fail to give the Lord the praise for what He's done for me. I've always been a church girl. I was born in the church, and I always attended. Church was our life. Everything that we done revolved around the church. We was the first ones there every Sunday morning and every Sunday night and every Wednesday night. We were always 30 minutes early. That was my daddy. And we'd say, "Well, there ain't nobody here yet." And he'd say, "Well, we're here." So anyway, when I was in about the 2nd or 3rd grade, I have a sister that's 15 months older than me. And we were having revival. And evidently she had got convicted of being saved. And I had never thought about anything like that. It just had never entered my heart that I needed to be saved. But it did hers, and everybody was crying and going on, and it's kind of scared me, and I got to crying. So somebody asked me, said, "Well, your sister got saved. Do you want to get saved?" And, well, yeah, I want to get saved. But I didn't know what being saved was all about. But I went through the motions and was baptized and everything. And so when I was in the 5th grade, it really got to bother me. And we were having another revival. And I couldn't go nowhere without hearing this man preaching in my ears about how I needed to be saved and that I wasn't saved. And I fought it for 2 or 3 nights. I wouldn't go up. I just wouldn't turn loose because I thought, well, you've done been up there, and what's people going to think of you when you go again, you know? But I just couldn't put it off any longer, and I had to go and give my heart to the Lord. And I've let him down a lot of times since then. I got out of church whenever me and Earl married. He wasn't a church goer, but the Lord showed me that I needed to get my girls in church. And I went back to church and started praying for Earl, and he got saved. And you know, even as old as I am today, the devil still tries to tell me a lot of times, you're not saved. Everything that happens, you know, you're just doing that. And he really tries to get at you in those ways. And today was one of those days when I was really feeling down for some reason. And we went to the Olympia to work out. And I always go down to this little room where you go in a circle, a bell rings, and you do all these different things. And there's a stereo down there, and you can put it on whatever station you want to. Well, it doesn't have Southern gospel, but it has contemporary gospel on it. So I always get a blessing when I do that. I love doing that, but there I was feeling like I was, you know, really feeling kind of down. And this song come on that said, "Fear is a liar." That helped me so much. That just lifted me up. And I just thought, you know, it is a liar. A fear is a liar. And we just need to believe and put our trust in God. And every time that comes to me, I just remind the devil of what I went through and how that God saved me and how that he brought me back in the pathway of right. And I thank him tonight for all he's done for me.
Amen. All right, who's next? Come on. Okay, who you are? Come on now. Am I gonna have to pick somebody out first?
You don't got one on board?
No, I got no more. I get no more pictures, okay.
Right quick. Brenda told you she was raised in church. Well, I was raised in front of the church. I didn't go to it, but we was married, I believe, in '63, and my routine was the beer joints on the weekends, and we was about 3 years before I got saved, and I don't know, well, I know now, but I didn't know then, but one Saturday, just on a routine, I went to the beer joint, and when I went in, nothing bothered me going out there. And when I went in, something happened. And I ordered up what I always drank, and I sat there and looked at that, and there was a voice just seemed saying, "You're the craziest person in the world. You've got a woman at home raising your kids, and here you are." And I scooted that thing back, and I've never drunk another drop. Well, I come back home, and Brenda, she couldn't believe that I was, because usually I don't come in till midnight or when the bar's open. But I told her, I said, "I'm going to go to church with you." Well, and still, the next week, I didn't go that Sunday, but I went the next week. I couldn't figure out what in the world happened to me. Why did I change all of a sudden? But now I know it's the Spirit. But then the next Sunday morning, I told her I'd go, and I told her I don't much believe I'd go. Well, she, you know, kind of cried a little bit. And so I thought, well, I'll just go and stop that crying. And I went. Now I'm telling you, folks, I didn't go looking for the Lord. But when I got there, the Lord would look for me. And anyhow, I was saved. I was saved in 1966, about midday, about 12 o'clock. And so life, and you people, I was thinking of this before I come to church. There's some of you that I've been here, me and Brenda's been here right at 40, 50 years. And I've been here with a lot of you. We've seen a lot of up and downs, but I'm here to tell you that I'm the happiest that I've ever been in my life. And tonight is a wonderful time to me. I've enjoyed it this far, but I enjoy anything that we do that we can get together as a church family. And that's what God has done for me. He's made me love you, and I appreciate it. I appreciate our pastor. I appreciate our deacons, trustees, the ones that work. We've got so many people works in our church that nobody don't even know what they do. But I'm very thankful that God has saved me, and I love Him more today than I ever have. And 2020 is going to be a good year for me. I done know that. It's going to be a sad year, but like that song says, let our life be a light. And we can do that, and it'll shine out as bad as this country is in today. But I love every one of you. Thank you.
All right, who's next? Come on.
Well, there ought to be another Earl somewhere.
All right, come on.
My journey started about halfway back in seating at a church. I was 9 years old. I had a godly mother till she got her last breath. I was the youngest of three, two sisters older than me. And mother, she conducted family services at night, I called it. We read the Bible, we sang songs. She gave a sort of a Bible lesson on what she'd read, and she worked it in with your daily life. Well, it had a church building, rock throwing distance from the boundary of our schoolyard. Every April, this big 6'5" preacher, he held a revival for 5th grade and up that wanted to come out of the grammar school to go. Well, I went to get out of class, of course, like most kids. But the third day, the Lord had done changed my heart to the point where I couldn't wait for the invitation the next morning. An amazing thing is I can still remember just like it was yesterday. Now, this is 70 years ago in April. Can you imagine that? It's still fresh. When I got up out of that seat and started to the altar, something changed there, and it was wonderful. And I attribute that was when I got saved. I didn't have to wait till I got here. When you surrender your heart, as Earl said, the Spirit comes in. As I tried to demonstrate the other day, and I was nervous or something. I can usually flip that thing and it ties a knot on them beads first thing. But to make it quickly, I'll tell you something that you won't believe. When I was in boot camp, I had buddies that got letters from girlfriends. I went through high school and didn't date any girls because we were a small class. And those girls were more of my sisters than they was somebody would want to date. So I was in boot camp, and these guys would get the letters from home. Well, I wasn't getting letters from home. I didn't have a girlfriend. So my mother had packed a Bible in my clothes when I went to boot camp. She said, read a little of this every day, and the Lord will take care of you. Well, I knew that. So I got talking to the Lord about that. I wonder who my wife is going to be. I hadn't even dated a girl. Well, I came home after I got out of boot camp, and I got into Knoxville, and I had an aunt there who was a good Christian, my mom's sister. She said, go to church with me. And she insisted I wear my uniform. I wanted to go in civilian clothes. But she sat about 3 rows back, and then the choir came out. And there was a young lady come in about the third seat here on the front row. And I'm blocked on there. I couldn't take my eyes off of her. And the reason I couldn't, I had dreamed of that girl. I had seen her face in a dream in boot camp. And I remember this, it's vivid. God done this on purpose. That dream was in color. And it's just as real today as it was then. And Barbara, after 60 years, she's still mine. Or I'm hers, I don't know which. Now, I'm like my buddy Earl. I'm happy. I don't worry about anything. I got no aches and pains in this old body. I had to have arteries in my leg operated on, but they're working fine. And what a pleasure it is to be alive. Praise the Lord is what I say.
All right. Mark, put it back on that first slide about my testimony, would you, my story? All right, who's next?
Figured I might as well come up and introduce myself to you because I'm not from around here and I don't have any family down here other than I might have Renfro's and Wyricks and some other folks like that in my genealogy. But as far as my story, literally we were poor white trash, just to be honest. We never went to church. We moved every 6 months to a year. My dad was looking for work, and my mom's first husband's family was out to get my oldest brother away from her because they didn't accept the second brother. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, but we didn't go to church, and we were always admonished, don't bring anybody to the house, because we always had stuff in a room that wasn't unpacked. And like I said, we were poor, so our furniture was, somebody else threw it out, and that was what we had. So don't bring anybody around. So anyway, when I was about 15, we went to it was a Seventh-day Adventist preacher that did a revival, and I accepted Jesus up here, but I didn't really take him down here, so I didn't read the Bible. I didn't have a Bible. And I went to work, and my mom was living with me. I supported her, and life was just in the way. And after she passed away, I kind of let life sweep me along, doing things I shouldn't have been doing. And when I got ready to retire, I had friends, Andy and Linda Tallman, that had moved down here. And when I moved down here, it was, I heard him calling me. And Linda asked me, do you want to go to church with me? Yeah. And we came and sat back in that corner, and I felt like I was at home. And so I accepted Jesus again. I said, hey, I accepted you the first time up here, but I want you down here. And so I got saved and baptized and joined this church, and you guys have been my family ever since, my Christian family. And so I'm so happy for what the Lord has done. And I've looked back, and I've seen so many things that the Lord did for me that I was too stupid to see it at the time. But now I look back and say, thank you, Lord, that you took care of me. And so many things that have happened in the last couple of years with my brothers and with friends that passed away, and getting a chance to see them again up in Indiana. And so anyway, I just thank the Lord that he adopted me into the family, and that you're my family.